Hello, everyone. I've just been thinking about programming and software engineering, sort of in general. And yeah, this is not going to be a philosophy live stream. Uh, it's going to be more towards people who are into coding and programming and the tech world. But if you're into philosophy and you're interested in this stuff, hang around. Uh, well, basically, if you are a person who codes or interested in the programming world, you probably see, especially on YouTube, you probably have seen there's a bit of discourse around the depth of the long form programming tutorial. Um, and I thought that was quite interesting because I think it reflects on how just outside of programming and computer science, how a lot of education is changing. I mean, on the podcast, I recently had Blas Commission on to discuss this about like how AI in education is changing. Should we move to a more oral model and all of these things? But really, the purpose of this kind of live stream isn't for me to discuss about kind of philosophical implications of what education is going to become in the future, but rather like just in the immediate future, practically what I've been thinking about in learning and becoming a better programmer and developing myself as a software engineer. And I think it's quite interesting because when I was in uni, so this was I graduated in 2020, 2020 or 2021, and I want to admit it, like throughout my whole time in uni. Oh, first of all, I forgot to say this. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. And if you're based in Australia like me, happy Boxing Day because we had Christmas yesterday. So yeah, it was really lovely. And in fact, I've got a flight to catch back home because I'm currently in Melbourne celebrating Christmas. Um, all right, now that I got that out of the way, back to the programming thing. I think the 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 paradigm is shifting in this way where because everyone's relying on AI to like quickly get the hit of whatever they want to pick up, and at the same time, um, like a lot of people are in fact not even like learning to program anymore. They're just like kind of vibe coding, which I think is a disaster. I think that's a really bad idea. You need to, I mean, just because vibe coding isn't letting an CLI AI, like an AI agent or something like Gemini or Claude, write the code for you. That's not vibe coding. It's fine if you let these things write the code for you. But if you don't know what it's doing, and if you don't know what's going on in the system, that is vibe coding. And that's a terrible idea. And I think it's just going to create so much mess in the future, and probably already creating a lot of mess, just like slop code. So so there are people who are just like not even they don't even care about programming anymore, and then there are people who I would, I guess, put myself in that camp. I love programming, I love software engineering, and I, in fact, in a way, consider it as sort of like a craft. Sorry if that sounds wanky, and and I want to become a better programmer, and like for example, when I work with some people, like some of my colleagues, or even ex-colleagues, they're so good, they're so smart, and some of the people I come across online, they're fantastic, they're super switched on, real guns, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of room for improvement. And on top of that, you come across a new concept in software engineering or a new programming language, you're like, oh, this is really cool. I want to learn more about this. Um, and so back to what I was saying before, when I was in uni, I'm gonna admit it. Like I learned basically the only textbook I read was Effective Java by Joshua Block cover to cover. Apart from that, I barely even looked at the lecture notes or any of that. I just learned everything off YouTube. It was all through long form tutorials on YouTube. I barely touched any kind of like books to learn programming. It was that, and then like working on my own projects, a bit of freelancing, and then like after a while, I got this part-time job at a startup. Um, and it's interesting, but now it seems there's discourse in the YouTube programming community about there not being all the depth of the long form tutorial content. And part of me makes me feel sad because, like, I saw Travis Media, he made a video, Travis said, Hussein Nazar just uploaded a video. And it kind of made me feel quite sad because, like, to be honest, like Hussein Nazar's Node.js kind of tutorials, he pretty much single-handedly helped me understand Node and the event loop and all of that, even a lot of threading, really. And my gosh, Travis and me, where do I even start? Like, I learned a lot of web development through his tutorials. These guys have really affected really my programming career in ways I can't even express. And the fact that they're moving on from these long form content simply because, number one, the YouTube algorithm rewards immediacy and rewards the quick fix. So it's like shorts, quick videos, and it's not rewarding long form content like lectures where you sit and you go through something. I mean, there are, for example, Andrew Karpathy, is it Karpathy? I can't pronounce his name. Andrew, the guy, OpenAI guy, a Tesla guy, who on his YouTube channel he does amazing videos on like building transformers and LLMs and like long form kind of content, and they get millions of views. So there are exceptions for sure. There are some of the MIT codes, open courseware stuff. There are exceptions, but generally, broadly speaking, most of the long form content really doesn't get any kind of traction on YouTube anymore. I'm pretty sure when I look at some of these OG veteran coding tutorial channels. And so they're moving away from that because, I mean, I understand it's for them, it is their livelihood. They need to, in a way, they need to kind of go where the market takes them, unfortunately, in the world we live in. So amidst all of that, I've been thinking about like, okay, so really, I don't think any of these long form coding tutorials are coming back. They may come back in different forms. So how do I improve as a programmer? How do I become a better software engineer? And I think this upcoming year onwards, my main, I mean, I really started this in 2025, but the change I'm going to try and make is to spend as less time as possible on just little cute little fun projects, like personal projects. I really don't think personal projects do much anymore. They're good if you're really trying to like learn how to program. If you don't know like what the RESTful architecture is, and if you want to build like a CRUD app, sure, work on personal projects. If you want to learn like really simple things like how loops look or whatever, sure. But after a while, they kind of aren't that useful. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to double down on learning programming theory from textbooks. Go to textbooks. I mean, it's really going to be a change in how I'm learning because so much of my programming I've learned by doing, but now I'm going to focus more on theory and pick up concepts through theory. So right now I've been going through the past couple of months. This is more mathematics, so mathematics of machine learning textbook. But then the next book I really want to focus on is functional programming in Scala. And then just like diligently, punctiliously go through these textbooks and try and implement those into, try and implement the concepts in those books into real life projects that I'm working on at work, or it could be some freelancing gig, or I'm most like a part-time. I'm not a part-time. I'm actually a master's student. For those who don't know, it's for my university projects, because those are actually big projects that ideally will be maintained and will last for a period over like a couple of days, and then it just goes on a public GitHub, which I don't know how much that helps. And then on top of that, I would say, you probably see like on LinkedIn, it's an old slope, but there's this people like, oh, I built this thing in vibe coding, I built this app in vibe coding. I mean, it's just, I'm yet to see, and maybe I'm wrong here, I want to be really open-minded. I'm not saying this can't be done. A scalable end-to-end system that's actually used by hundreds and thousands of users being vibe coded, I'm yet to see that. And if I see that, great. Well, then we need to readjust, let's say. Because like all the little personal projects that we as like let's say programming students used to work on to learn programming, it can be done by AI. It's not a big deal. It really doesn't matter anymore. And it's just, you know, I don't know, load a couple of JSON files and like manipulate them and do something with it and put it in a database. Like it's really not a big deal. You could just, so if AI could do that, what we need now are people, I think, who understand theory deeply so that when you're vibe coding, or let's say you're using an AI tool to code, it does spew out bullshit inevitably. You can pick it up. Um, an example I can think of recently is I was working on this Java project, and there was this function that returned like a, a null or an empty string, and that stood off to me. I was like, why aren't you using optionals here? Because that's the reason the optional interface was introduced was to handle null pointer exceptions. Why are you like returning uh, empty strings on null? So like things like that. Like that's a really simple example. Like especially I'm sure when it comes to more high level programming or like advanced programming, like multi-threading and all of that, there are things even I myself am not that good at. And for that, you really need to understand theory and how memory allocation works, how threads get spun up, and how a threads using a thread log, how the locks work, and all of that. So that in a way, it should kind of be like in our being where we see some crap, we can pick it out. And I think the only way to do that is really double down on, as cliche as it sounds, the computer science fundamentals. Um, so that's one thing I'm doing. I'm moving back to the textbooks and not focusing too much on like just being lost in tutorial hell. No, spending too much time on like cute little side projects. Like focus on the main projects, focus on the big projects that I want to have like long-term impact in that regard. And the second thing, and this is something I think I'm still picking up, is understanding that software engineering in a modern world, especially if it's like more in a startup context, is also operations. Uh, so operations is not something you can pick up in theory, but it's understanding ops and a company, how a company functions, which a lot of the really good engineers that I've worked with are also really good ops people. They know who to speak to. They know where to look for things. They understand context really well. And these things, I don't think in any way. Sorry, I don't think these things you can put them in a textbook. I mean, I guess you could have like frameworks and certain blueprints to doing things, like kind of like even like kind of like what was the book by Marty Kate and the product management book called Inspired. But I doubt that it's it's more like this ability to like meta learn or like learning to learn and like picking up context really quick. And I don't really know how to do that yet. I think the only way to do that is to just dive headfirst into a problem and start solving problems within an organization, within a team, to pick up the context of that team. And this is stuff I really don't think you can even have any kind of like general purpose algorithm do this. You need a human being who understands how to pick up context, how to pick up cues and whatnot, and kind of, to use this term by Wittgenstein, that are in the forms of life that are playing the language game in a variety of forms of life within an organization, um, and kind of are embodied and in that environment. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to do as a software engineer to grow. My two main goals this year is to really become a fantastic ops person, and that means like just really understanding the business use cases of or the old use cases of what I'm trying to solve. And secondly, on top of like becoming a really good ops person, just becoming a fantastic theoretician, like really understanding programming theory end to end, being able to point out or being able to like identify just like bad programming or like bad AI slop the moment I see it. And I don't think that can be done without just becoming really a master of your craft. Because I think it's sort of like, let's get the job done kind of programming. It's sort of going to die off eventually because we probably are going to move. I mean, I'm never going to make predictions because it's just useless, but I think we probably are going to move towards something that involves more like programming depth over just like delivering things. Because the truth is, there will be some parts in a software engineering team, some parts that you can deliver quick. That the scope isn't as the what's the word, the blast radius isn't as much, and it's going to be a simple project. So you can just like deliver it the moment you get done with it. It won't take that long. But there are going to be some, especially infrastructure level, platform level, platform engineering level type of projects that do involve a deep understanding of systems architecture, of computer science, of programming languages, infrastructure, all of that, to make sure that the damn system runs and is scalable, and all the buzzwords in the tech world, that it doesn't crash on a user. And look, I still think I'm still excited about the programming world, despite all the nonsense and the crap going on on the tech world right now. Despite the fact that capitalism has brought us gentrification, I still think as programmers we can do good things. We can help people genuinely, with a bunch of caveats there that I don't want to get into right now. But personally, for me, in the world of AI, I'm going to textbooks. I'm going straight to textbooks. And sure, I mean, I may use AI to like ask a few questions if I don't understand something, but I'm going to go back to the books and then try and become a really good ops person. And yeah, that's just my little spiel there for what it's worth. But yeah, everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you all for. I even put up a post last night. Thanks everyone for listening to the podcast. I mean, this is outside of becoming a programmer. I'm not even a programming. I know this isn't primarily like a programming channel, but thanks all for listening to the podcast. And thank you, Bob Don. Nice one. Good luck. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I can't pronounce your username. Thanks for the support. I really am grateful for people that reached out, or the listeners of the podcast, and we connected. We had through email or Zoom chats. It's meant a lot to me. And of course, the guests. Thank you for being super generous with your time. But I'll see all of you next year. In fact, the next podcast is going to be with Peter Beckman and Quentin, I forget his surname. Anyway, two researchers working on mechanistic interpretability from a philosophy of deep learning perspective. And it's just going to be fascinating. And I'm really looking forward to it, which we're going to be recording, I think, first week of Jan. All right. Take care, everyone. Good luck, and hope you have a fantastic start to 2026. Peace.